kind of the episode 2 about talking about tariffs and talking about Trump. And yeah, we're going to keep having these discussions because it seems like you guys like them. You're getting more views. A lot of you guys are hating, but you're still tuning into the show. A lot of people have been name calling me, things like that. I really don't care. Does it look like I care? Just because you disagree with someone's political opinions, maybe you can grow up a little bit and not name call me in my comment sections. But there's also been a lot more support as well. A lot of people are supporting my channel and stuff like that. And just know I'm not, the president himself. But I honestly think it's hilarious and it's amusing. It doesn't really hurt my feelings. There's plenty of internet trolls out there. All the losers and all the haters and all the nasty people, they're only online. I've never run into anyone like that in real life. And I've traveled all over and met all kinds of different people. But besides that, it's a good day. It's Saturday. I just uploaded a new video yesterday. American reviews the capital of Montenegro. Maybe the title's too long. Maybe the thumbnail isn't the best. I don't know. Maybe I should change it so it gets more views. I don't know. I have no idea. But I do know one thing. The stock market is crashing. A lot of people that are in retirement and stuff like that, I do feel bad. Like if you're in retirement, you got to live off the money. But you got to consider a couple things. This is only a short-term thing for the stock market. I can give a great example. When Trump was president in 2018, the stock market just dipped for about a year or two, but we had much smaller tariffs. I mean, it didn't even dip for a year, probably just 6 months, 8 months. And then in the 2019, we saw a stock market boom. And then 2020, we saw a little bit of a stock market boom. Even with the pandemic, there was a lot of money being pumped into the market from our government and other governments to kind of prop up the market. So the stock market wasn't too bad. And even in 2021, this is, I honestly think it was Donald Trump because Biden didn't do anything yet. I mean, he's a really slow acting president. I think everyone can agree that Trump did more in his first 100 days than Biden did pretty much in his first 2 years. Biden really didn't do much in his first year. He didn't do too much in the first 6 months of his presidency. So you can't really say the stock market was because of him in 2021. But besides that, after 2021, it kind of did take a dip, a huge dump in 2022 and 2023 under Joe Biden. Really wasn't doing good in 2023 or 2024. At the end of 2024, it was doing good when, it had a huge boom when people thought when Trump was going to get elected. But now, obviously, it's having a really bad thing because of the tariffs, the stock market, or whatever. I mean, I don't really consider this really bad. It's not a great recession. It's nothing like the 2008 housing crisis. It's nothing like that bad. It's just tariffs. It's going to affect it a little bit. And if you ask me my personal opinions, I mean, I know we dropped hey, what's up? What's up? I don't know how to pronounce that name, but we're just talking about the stock market. Let's pull up the S&P 500 actually, because that's really interesting. People want to say about the stock market and this and that. But let's take a look at the actual index. Yes, it lost 6% in one day, so I guess that's making everyone cry and freak out. Hey man, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so let's look at it year to date. 13% down. Now that might seem bad, but you got to consider in 2021 or 2020-ish, right after we had all that growth, there was a flash stock market crash. That was 30-50% in a month. 30 or 50% in a month. And yeah, I think that was Yeah, let's look up the flash crash. Let's see how much it dropped. Where are you guys coming from? Inside the United States, outside the United States? What state? The flash crash, 30%. Maybe it was 2020 during the pandemic, COVID. Yeah, it was 2020. We had the flash crash, the COVID crash. The whole stock market crashed 12% in one day. That's basically double what Trump did with tariffs. And tariffs actually have a benefit. We just locked the whole world down for nothing, in my personal opinion. I mean, I went outside plenty of times. I traveled to Las Vegas. I did not see any bodies or anyone dying in the street. I know plenty of people got sick from whatever flu or whatever COVID, whatever you want to say that was. But I did not see a true pandemic. A pandemic in my eyes is when you go outside and people are dying in the street. I don't think masks saved anyone at all. I did not get sick from COVID ever once. Yeah. And I think a lot of the tests that were given were cheap tests from China that really had no telling if it was right or wrong. Because I know for a fact some people didn't have COVID and they took the test and it said they did. So yes, this was 2020. There was a little bit of growth before, the flash crash in March. But we gotta look at history, right? If you would have invested during this period, I invested money, you made a fortune basically. Especially if you invested in oil and tech stocks and stuff like that. But unfortunately, Biden killed my momentum basically in 2023 and 2024. I'm not going to get into all my personal details, but yeah, he kind of killed my momentum. I'll just put it at that. But now here comes another opportunity, guys. It's another opportunity, especially for the younger generation, people that aren't trying to retire right now. People that are retired, if you have hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, then you don't have to worry about a 5% drop. I mean, think about this. What's a 5% drop on 100,000? That's only 5,000. That can come back in a day, or that can come back in a week, or that can come back whenever. It'll slowly come back. This is going to help the stock market long term. In a year or 2 years, the whole stock market will start to shoot up again. This is just another opportunity for people to buy in. This is just a really good opportunity. If you guys need advice what to buy in the stock market, I'm not here to give financial education or financial advice, but the S&P 500, the 500 biggest, largest companies in the United States, if not the world, and it's down 13% in the last month. That's just another opportunity. That's how you can look at it. If you have a lot of money in the stock market, then it's probably not going to bankrupt you. And I think we're pretty much at the height of the anxiety. Like, it's all about how people feel about the market. Right now, everyone feels like crap, of course, because of the tariffs. But in a month, and in 2 months, and 3 months, people are slowly going to start to forget about all this. And it's going to bring back American jobs and American industry. Because if we're going to be honest, what's more important to the younger people and to the people that aren't retired and stuff like that? I mean, I do feel bad for everyone that has to experience this, that has a lot of money in the stock market. Don't get me wrong, I completely understand what it's like to lose that much money in a short amount of time. But the benefits are that you'll still get your dividends from the companies and stuff like that. And yeah, there was a huge dip in 2020. Hey man, how you doing? So let's take a look at the stock market here again. So as I was saying, there was a big okay, let's look at this like this. This was during Trump's first this was during Trump's first tariffs right here because they were small. So it just went boop, bunch down, bunch down, bunch down right here in October, I remember. But then a little, and then starting to go up in 2019. Like I said, the stock market started to go up after Trump's tariffs about a year later. Not even a year later, just from October to May. The next summer, the stock market started to shoot up, shoot up, shoot up. Look, by December, we're almost double of what Trump's tariffs were in 2018. Okay, maybe I'm bullcrapping, maybe not double, but we're like close to it, just maybe like 75% increase from the bottom to the top. And back then I got in on that as well. Luckily, I was investing when Trump put his first tariffs. And then in 2020, look, this is a huge crash. Compare it to now, it doesn't even compare. It doesn't even compare. Look, that's us right now. We just took a big dip. But look how bigger the dip was in 2020 when they shut down the whole economy for nothing. People want to be pissed over Trump. Why aren't you pissed over they shut the whole economy down for nothing? You can go outside. No one was dying in the street. There was no one collapsing and falling to their knees. It was unnecessary. If I walked outside like I did back then, I didn't die. I didn't get sick. It made no difference. They just shut down the whole economy for nothing. I can sit there and cry about this a million times more than they can cry about Trump's tariffs. This was horrible. Look at the market. Look at the market then. They shut down the whole world for nothing for the biggest freaking dip in the last 20 freaking years. Literally the biggest dip. You don't see anywhere else on the scale where it was as big as dip. Now, if it gets bigger for the tariffs, then good. It's an opportunity for the young people. Young people are poor. We don't have enough money to buy stocks or whatever. But look at that. That was the biggest dip in stock market history just for their bullcrap about shutting down the world. Like, that was completely unnecessary. I can name 5 countries right now that didn't shut down. Finland didn't shut down. Sweden didn't shut down. No COVID restrictions. Finland and Sweden did not shut down. Belarus did not shut down. There's 3 countries right there. No COVID restrictions. But as I was saying, then once the country started to open back up, and some of the stuff that Trump put in place, even though Biden was president, he didn't do anything. He just sat there. And we started to see the huge gain again. That's going to be what's going to happen here, guys. We're going to have another dip right here. Look, if the whole economy can literally shut down for a whole freaking year, then you can't tell me that we're not going to get past these tariffs in a year or two. Like, the economy is going to shoot up. I'm not an idiot. These tariffs aren't going to last forever. Now, I'm just kind of giving it advice. This is a great time to invest. A great, great time to invest. Opportunities like this don't always come around. See, that was the 2020 when they shut down the whole world for no freaking reason. For some flu. I went outside. I went to places. I went to Las Vegas. I went to other places in Florida. I traveled as much as I could during that time. And basically, yeah, there was nothing going on. I didn't see anyone die in the street. I've seen more people die from violence than I have ever seen in the COVID freaking thing. But yeah, guys, right now we're just, we just took 1,000 points off the top real quick. I mean, we took 1,000 points off the top during the COVID, and that was for absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. I mean, really, we didn't even take 1,000 points off. We were at 5,954 in the S&P 500. Now we're at 5,000. Get it lower, guys. Get it lower. We need to buy these stocks if we can get any extra money. Because look at the trend of the stock market. It always goes back up. And ever since 2016, the stock market has been shooting up like crazy. Look at the stock market in the Obama years. It's freaking horrible. You know what's almost worse than a drop is just a steady slow drop. Or a slow drop like that. If you're new to the channel, hit the like and subscribe button. No one was crying during the pandemic about the stock market or their retirement accounts. Now everyone wants to cry and say, oh, tariffs. What about American jobs? Like, the job market has been sucking for the last 4 years or 5 years. We need to bring back American jobs. And that's pretty much that. Everyone will always freak out about this or that, but realistically, another thing we gotta talk about is if you invested in the stock market in the last 5 years, your money doubled. So really, can you just take a 10% loss or a 5% loss in a day and be happy about it if you have your fortune in it? If you have hundreds of thousands, if not millions? Even at the current prices, the stock market has doubled in the last 5 years. That's pretty much about average, if not better than average performance. And that's even with the pandemic, that's even with everything. So if you're a long-term investor or a retiree, just consider this. Your stocks have doubled, even if you just invested in the S&P 500. That's not an individual company, that's just an index fund. Pretty much every retirement account has this index fund in it. Your money has doubled in 5 years. That's really, really, really good. It doesn't need freaking millions of growth every single year. We need to focus on American things sometimes, like American jobs and American economics and American companies. We have the top financial advisors. We have people from Harvard, from Yale. These are all people that are working with Donald Trump on the tariffs. It has more than doubled in the last 5 years. And the last year, we're only down 2%. Truthfully, I feel more bad about people panicking than I actually do for the actual losses because, like the actual losses aren't too bad. Like I said, if they're a retiree and they invested in the stock market for long term, their money has already doubled in the last 5 years. So they can afford a 5% loss or a 10% loss. I'm not saying for anyone specific, by the way, guys. I'm just saying for anyone, really. If you have a smaller amount of money, you're even more bulletproof. Like, if you have a $500 or something in the stock market, don't even worry about it, basically. But yeah, let's watch some more videos about the economic situation. I know a lot of people are panicking and crying about this. It's unfortunate to see, but the truth is the truth.
Joining me now, Jim Farley, President and CEO of the great Ford Motor Company. Jim, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Now,
what about
we're seeing
Ford?
A difference in how automakers are responding to these tariffs. GM told Fox Business it's ramping up production in the U.S. Several hundred temporary workers. Stellantis, though, laying off 900. Which way is Ford going?
Well, thank you, Laura, for having me on. First of all, we build more vehicles in the U.S. than any other brand. We export more, and we have more factory workers. So we never left the U.S. And our plan is really simple, to offer employee pricing, basically the price I pay or anyone at the company pays for all Americans. We believe this is a moment for Ford to differentiate itself, for us to really highlight the American car industry at a moment when it's being discussed in media like yourself, Laura. And we think this is our opportunity to gain some business.
Jim, the Chinese auto company BYD is dominating the market now in Australia, one of our strong allies. So President Trump is obviously very annoyed by the fact that our cars don't get into the markets, even in countries that are our allies, military allies, economic partners. So will these tariffs, in your view, help make that situation more competitive abroad for Ford?
Well, we're really thrilled to engage in the White House in a serious discussion about fair trade. And the Chinese are now the largest exporter of automobiles in our industry. And that's a very recent phenomenon. For example, over 20% of the vehicles sold in Mexico are built in China. So this is an incredibly important topic. We're very grateful for the president's leadership and the chance to work with his administration to compete on a fair playing field, which these tariffs, especially those coming from China and also other trading partners, as you mentioned, to really put us on an equal footing so we can compete on our home market in a fair way.
I know, Jim, we talked about this at the open of the show, but it's not just the tariffs that put American manufacturers at an unfair disadvantage. It's the massive subsidies, the market manipulation, the stealing of intellectual property. There's so many different things that give these industries in other countries, whether it's steel or aluminum, automobile, pharmaceuticals. So this is a broader look at a big problem that's developed really over the last 30 plus years, is it not?
I've been in the industry for 40 years, Laura. I've seen this play out for 4 decades. Whether it's non-tariff barriers or tax policy in those countries, we see all of the fair and unfair ways that our competition plays globally. They know how important auto is to jobs in their country, and they are going to do everything they can to help those competitors. And it's high time for us in our country to get serious. Now, we have to work out the details with the administration, and we're doing that. But I'm very encouraged that that we will have a better chance for a fair and square fight for the biggest fight we've ever seen in the auto industry in 40 years.
Jim, what about the auto parts that Ford needs to assemble the most vehicles in the United States, as you said? A lot of those are made in other countries. Will these tariffs have an effect on you in that regard, and then hike prices up?
I'm really glad you asked this question, because this is really the essential point of working closely with our leaders in DC on the details, because the details matter greatly. You know, we have thousands of parts in our American-made vehicles, and we want to keep them as affordable as possible. Some of those parts, like wiring looms and others, are specialty kind of work. And as we work through this with the administration, we're optimistic we can find the right balance between affordability and a strong industry where we can add jobs to the industry in the coming months and years.
Jim, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our...
Now guys, this is the opportunity to get in the stock market. People that are retirees, you guys already doubled your money in the last 5 years. I'm sure realistically, you can handle a 5 or 10% drop short term. But the young people, we really appreciate this opportunity, basically, if you're smart enough to get in on it.
Trump's at the peak of just not giving an F anymore. Bad news stories, doesn't give an F. This is what his team's saying. He's going to do what he's going to do. He's going to do what he promised to do on the campaign trail. The mood in the White House is confidence. The White House says 47's never felt more confident and happy than in pushing tariffs. It's his lifelong aspiration.
What would you do differently, Donald?
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country, because you can't keep going on losing $200 billion, and yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Open. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country.
Behind the scenes, the president's been pounding the fact that the world's been ripping us off for 40 years. And he's on a mission to right those wrongs before the end of his term. The vision? Turn the country into a place with thriving main streets and hometowns, where American workers make American products sold to the American public. Doesn't that give you a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling inside?
American
And he wants to make it easier for people to start families, afford homes, and go to college. These tariffs are for the children. The great American president did the same thing just over 100 years ago. The British were dumping cheap manufactured goods into the country, kneecapping industry, and driving down wages. McKinley believed if you didn't have tariffs, the British industry would drown you. Today, it's not just the British. The world's drowning us. The president's mentality is, if you want access to the greatest market in the world, the American market, you're going to have to pay up. Kind of like a real estate fee. And thinks we're suckers not to be charging people. But Wall Street thinks they're the suckers.
I feel like a sucker tonight because I am not a free trader, and I do not believe in free trade. And I was just as tough, if not tougher, than his people, but they screwed it up. I was very let down as someone who really truly believes that free trade is awful for the American working person. This is what they came up with. Geez, come on, have some gumption, have some math.
Kramer feels like a sucker. Now he knows how his audience feels. He said buy Bear Stearns, and the next week it went bankrupt.
He's an
The Dow is
idiot.
actually in the same place it was in August.
People have made more money inversing Kramer than they have listening to the guy.
Trump's not nervous.
They do the
president feels
opposite
like
of
a
what
real
he
estate
says and
mogul
they
with
make
a
more
full
money.
inventory of mansions
Literally.
under his sole control. It's been 48 hours since Liberation Day, and the phones at the White House won't stop ringing. Vietnam called today. They tariff our products at a rate of 90%. You can't even find an American-made product in Vietnam unless it's an old landmine. Nam says they're ready to drop their tariffs from 90 to 0. 58,000 Americans died there. We should be able to sell them Chevys. Argentina wants to go down to 0% too. Their president, he's the guy that gave Elon the chainsaw. He says friends will be friends. India's cutting a trade agreement in the coming days. That's over 1 billion customers our companies will get access to. South Korea is going all out to get a good deal. And South Korea knows a thing or two about tariffs. You can't get into that market. And they're an Asian powerhouse. The Europeans are coming to the table. They're willing to drop their automobile tariffs from 10% to 2.5%. And they're promising to buy American energy and weaponry. Japan's tried everything. They've said President Trump will buy more natural gas, more armaments. They said SoftBank's investing $500 billion in America, and Trump said no. Keep going. What else? 47 means business. And the last one to negotiate loses. China, in a big huff, retaliated and jacked up tariffs on us. Trump says, quote, China played it wrong. They panicked. The one thing they cannot afford to do. How many things in China say made in America? And how many things here say made in China? Now do you get it? The White House is holding all the cards. And who are the ones crying? Foreign countries and American multinationals who ship jobs and factories to those same foreign countries.
Nobody was crying these crocodile tears when they were closing the Mound Road engine plant that Chrysler had in Macomb County, or the Romeo engine plant in Romeo, Michigan in Macomb County. But all of a sudden, now that we're trying to bring these products back, these components and these vehicles back to the United States, all of a sudden, all the so-called experts are saying it's going to plunge us into recession and be terrible for the economy.
Yeah.
So thank God. If they're crying, I think we're doing something right.
Chrysler, Jeep, and Ford aren't going to raise car prices, they said. They're actually going to give American buyers a discount. Huh? Toyota says they're not going to raise prices. And Nissan is beefing up SUV production in Tennessee. That came just hours after GM shifted their truck manufacturing back to Indiana. Barack said he didn't have a magic wand to bring jobs back. Well, Trump just waved his wand around, and 228,000 jobs appeared in March.
We blew it out of the water. Even all the economists that looked at this thought we were going to have a depressed jobs report, and we didn't. So that's a testament to the president, the economic output that he is doing. Look at the Rose Garden that we had the other day. Who was in the audience? It was all the American workers. We had our Teamsters there. We had our United Auto Workers there. We're seeing those investments pay off, and I would expect that to continue.
Biden was hemorrhaging manufacturing jobs on his way out. Trump hit the brakes, then hit the gas. Look at those jobs coming back. It's not just manufacturing. The ranchers, farmers, and fishermen love it.
Our egg sector gets decimated by other countries tariffing our beef imports, our shrimp, our catfish. They tariff us at up to 50% of our exported egg products and then dump mass-produced egg products into our market, severely harming our farmers and our ranchers.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.
Most Americans have been extremely poor since 2020 when they shut down the economy for nothing and inflation started spiraling out of control.
Markets are open and you might want to turn away, or maybe not. It's 2 days now. The news is tough out there now with the tariff announcement. Already in 5 minutes of trading, we're up about 2.5% for the Dow 30, so we're below 40,000 now for the first time in some time, say about a year. On the broader market, the S&P 500 trading lower about 2.5 percentage points. The NASDAQ is down even more at 3%. So in the past 30 minutes, the president, who is now in Florida at Doral for the LIVE event, he posted this. So the many investors coming to the United States and investing massive amounts of money, my policies will never change. This is a great time to get rich, richer than ever before. I will remind you that China announced its retaliatory tariffs around 5 a.m. Eastern time today to the tune of 35% for American products going into China. So that was the latest move. We'll see how it bounces back and forth throughout the day and into the weekend as we move forward. All right, this from last night, Air Force One. Roll it.
What we have is a set of tariffs based on what they've been charging us as reciprocal. And those tariffs have come in and every country's called us. That's the beauty of what we do. We put ourselves in the driver's seat.
President Trump somewhat downplaying the initial market reaction to his tariff plan. He's betting Americans will tolerate the short-term downturn if it means restoring manufacturing here in the U.S. Free Press columnist Batya Ungar Sargon writes that with Trump's Liberation Day plan, he's delivering on one of his campaign promises. She is our guest now. I'm sorry about that, but your name is unusual, but people are going to get to know you. You wrote a column that is getting a lot of attention. It said this: how did he steal the working class from the Democrats? Well, in the most obvious way, by purloining their pro-labor agenda. He has enforced the border and is now instituting widespread tariffs, implementing a broad protectionist agenda committed to reshoring manufacturing and giving the working class a boost, the likes of which we haven't seen since the New Deal. Tell me about your column and the reaction to it.
Do you know, it's so amazing. This morning on one of the liberal channels, I saw a Democrat congressman, and he was just sitting there saying, I have no idea why President Trump is doing this. They simply cannot understand why he is implementing the tariffs, because the answer is simple. He is choosing Main Street over Wall Street. He has chosen to bet on the American working class instead of on the rich elites. And this is astonishing because for 60 years, presidents on both sides of the aisle have sided with the rich over the hardest working Americans, the American working class. And, you know, I used to have the Trump derangement syndrome. You know, I started out as a lefty, a liberal. I really couldn't understand the draw people had to this president. But over time, I've come to see that he is simply the inheritor of the values that used to define the Democrats, because they used to be the party of labor.
Was there a single moment that changed you?
So the cracks came a little at a time and then all at once. You know, the first was my rabbi, who's the best person I know, told me that he loved Trump. And I suddenly realized, well, I guess not every person who voted for him is a racist. Then I was doing a lot of reporting from the South on American polarization. And what I found was a lot more united Americans than divided us, even in this moment. It was really the elites who were polarized, but average Americans were very united. And then the kicker was in 2018, I saw a Yale study. And in this Yale study, it found that there was a difference between how white liberals and white conservatives talk to Black and Hispanic Americans. And here was the difference. White liberals dumb down their vocabulary when they're talking to Black or Hispanic people. And white conservatives don't do that. They use a lower level of vocabulary. It's called presenting lower competence. They use smaller words when they're talking to Blacks and Hispanics than they do when they're talking to white people. This is white liberals. But white conservatives don't do that. And I remember looking at this and thinking, and we, the liberals, call them the racists? This is the most racist thing I ever heard. And it was an indictment of the entire progressive worldview, which is based on this idea that minorities require the largesse and the beneficence of white progressives in order to thrive. And that was really a moment where I realized, wow, there's something really wrong with the left as it is, and came to see that it was President Trump who wanted to implement agenda items that would restore dignity to working class Americans. That's what this entire agenda is about. That's what these tariffs are about.
And so do you think that others are coming around to this opinion? Like obviously you hear feedback from a lot of people.
So the response to my Free Press column has been overwhelming. And I actually wanted to ask you, Dana, why do you think that is? Why do you think that this idea of a MAGA lefty is resonating so much with so many conservatives?
Well, I don't think it's that surprising because we are living through a political realignment. And when you go through a realignment, it takes 10 to 15, 20 years for it to happen. And so to me, I think it's just maybe a little bit of the natural order of things. And partly because I don't think it's that presidents didn't care about the working class. I do think a lot of it had to do with identity politics and the woke liberalism and also trying to take rights away from parents. And that has been a big issue. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Do you have 2 cents?
You need to write a piece for the Free Press. But you wear your MAGA lefty label now with pride. And,
do.
Thanks for sharing.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you guys so
it's
much.
interesting
God bless you. Thank you
perspective.
so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
What do you guys think? You love tariffs? You hate them? Let's do a whole poll in here. Thoughts about Let me know what you guys think about tariffs. Pointless, or they bring back American jobs, or what do you guys think? If you're new to the channel, hit the like and subscribe button.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle. Thank you, as always, for joining us. Now, if you have been checking your 401k, maybe obsessively over the last few days, it's understandable that the steep decline has you worried. The market slide is real, but it is also temporary. And the people I trust are right when they urge you to hang tight, do not panic sell. But of course, the Democrats, who we know are incapable of raising the standard of living of middle-class Americans, their only response is to fuel the panic.
We've seen close to 8 or 9% of the stock market drop. That means a lot of people's retirement plans are going out the window.
It's a bloodbath in the markets again today.
For families, for small businesses, for small farmers in my state, this is devastating.
And of course, they were quick to dismiss at the same time that gangbusters job number that came out today, which beat expectations at 228,000 jobs created in March. Remember, that's without the tax cut that's coming. But I'm here tonight to tell you, when you hear the usual suspects predict the worst or claim that Trump's approach is ruinous, well, remember this. These were many of the same people who told Americans to be patient when China began to devour our manufacturing sector. So why would we ever take economic advice from them? They told us that China would become more open, more free, less of an adversary if we allowed them to join the World Trade Organization back in 2000. And they certainly waved off concerns regarding American industries. They weren't going to shrink. Who cares, they said. I mean, after all, it's only going to be, what, made in China? Happy Meal toys and Nikes, maybe? Well, you fast forward to today, and here's where things stand. America has gone from being the dominant exporter of steel to number 4 in exporters behind China, Canada, and others. And now, if we do nothing, China will dominate in everything from tools, computers, solar panels, shipbuilding, drones, satellites, and yes, of course, pharmaceuticals. Now, don't even get me started on what China is doing with artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and biotech. So Trump's economic reset, it comes after 30 plus years of disastrous economic policy that made a small subset of America very, very rich, while the middle class fell further behind.
Nobody was crying these crocodile tears when they were closing the Mound Road engine plant that Chrysler had in Macomb County, or the Romeo engine plant in Romeo, Michigan. Now that we're trying to bring these products back, these components and these vehicles back to the United States, all of a sudden, all the so-called experts are saying it's going to plunge us into recession and be terrible for the economy. If they're crying, I think we're doing something right.
As for the Republicans who are giving up on Trump's policies after 2 days, be careful who your anti-tariff bedfellows are.
It's the first time we have seen some Republicans buck Donald Trump. They've all too often gone along with him, even when they know his policies are dead wrong. So I welcome it, and I hope it could pass. It's a bipartisan bill, and it shows you how bad these tariffs are when even Republicans, who've been so afraid to break with Trump, some of the leading Republicans are.
And anyway, that dinosaur, he gives us a really bad case of whiplash on the tariffs issue.
My views on trade are probably closer to President Trump's than they were to President Obama's or President Bush's. I think our trade laws have hurt working people. The tariffs, if they wanted to do something about autos, should have been much more pinpointed and isolated than this massive assault on American families, all to help the billionaires.
Yeah. At one point today, it was so weird, he just started reading on live TV.
How worried are you that all of this could push the U.S. economy into a recession?
I'm very worried about it, Dana. This is one of the most disastrous and poorly thought out policies that the Trump administration has done thus far. What it does is it makes everybody just worry about spending money. Businesses hold back on spending, on training, on hiring people, and it's so poorly done. Do you know, Dana? This policy taxes penguins, but not Putin.
Penguins, but not Putin? I don't even know what that man's saying. So look, I'm here tonight to tell you, ignore the Dow doomsdayers. Remember, these are the people who get to trade in the market, even though they have a lot of effect on the market with their legislation. I'm not listening to any of these people. You have to think beyond the short run. I think the CEO of United, well, seems to get it.
To me, what's happening there is a genuine desire from the administration to actually create more careers like we create here at United Airlines for middle-class Americans and to strengthen the middle class here in the country. And I think that's a laudable goal. You may disagree fairly with the way we get there and the tactics to get there, but the goal of creating great middle-class careers, I think, is a laudable one.
Yeah, the United CEO is bullish on America. Good stuff. So when the dust settles, we're going to once again have a dynamic economy where companies and their workers who make things in America will have advantages. It certainly will be more fair. So people who build cars, people who forge steel will get paid more. And hedge fund managers are going to do just fine as well. A friend today put it this way. Would Joe Sixpack rather have $62 oil or a temporary stock market loss? Because the drop in oil prices and the 10-year treasury, that...
Oh, look, here he is. You can trash. Hey, buddy, welcome back. Breaking things even more. Hey, maybe you consider, maybe we can bring American business back, like American automakers. And also, this is a huge opportunity for younger people to invest in the stock market and make a damn fortune. I can show you the stock market graph if you'd like to look at it and we can discuss over it, but we already had this discussion before. You're pretty much in all retirement accounts and index funds, so you really don't know too much about individual companies. And if you're gonna ask me something stupid like, do I regret supporting Trump? Hell the fuck no, I don't regret supporting Trump. He's giving people a huge opportunity to get rich. He even posted it on his Truth Social. He said, guys, we invest in the stock market now. Jobs didn't leave. Are you fucking stupid? MSNBC just reported 220,000 added jobs in March. Do you not even watch your own liberal news? Do you not even watch your own liberal news? Doesn't even watch his own liberal news. Let's turn on his own liberal news on him because he loves MSNBC. I don't know what kind of question this is, but it's because we don't have good trade policies. That's why. If they can just go to another country and import it to the United States with no tariffs, why wouldn't they just make it in Mexico and China? That's why all the jobs left. Because they say, oh, you know, we can just go to Mexico or China. We don't have much tariffs from the U.S., so we can just import everything and make it for pennies. We can just make it for pennies. So let all these jobs go overseas. Hell yeah. I just said that. I literally just said they want more profits. That's why they go overseas, so they can make it for cheaper, and there's no tariffs. There's no tariffs, so they're like, okay, there's no tariffs. I'm just gonna go overseas and make it and import it to the U.S. Since there's no tariffs or anything stopping me, I can just put all the jobs overseas. You're literally proving my point. You don't even realize it because you're such blinded by your Trump derangement syndrome. It's not about the worker, it's the fact that the US doesn't have any tariffs on Chinese products previously. Sure, income is a factor, but if we slapped 100% tariffs on them, then they're going to bring jobs back to the US, regardless of income or GDP or any of that nonsense. It really doesn't matter.
The Labor Department has just released the jobs report for the month of March.
You're still not understanding. Tariffs can throw the cost of everything off. Labor doesn't matter when Trump puts 100% tariff on Chinese goods. Doesn't matter if they make it for 2 cents. That's giving American manufacturers an advantage.
It shows 228,000 jobs were added last month, beating economists' expectations. The unemployment rate now stands at 4.2%. Of course, here to break it all down for us, our economic dream team, NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung and Investopedia editor-in-chief Caleb Silver. Good morning to you both. Brian, let's begin with you at the big board. Break down the numbers. What's the new data showing us?
Yeah, well, I mean, let's start off with that unemployment rate figure that you just showed, 4.2%. That's essentially where we were as of a few reports as of late. So you can see that, yeah, it's an improvement from the 6% that we've seen prior to the recovery of the pandemic. But again, historically low, actually still near multi-decade lows on that front. But it was really the job gains themselves with 228,000 jobs coming in for the month of March. That puts us at around here compared to where estimates had us. Again, Wall Street economists were expecting something a little bit closer to 140,000. So this is a much better than expected job support and actually outpaces the job gains we had seen in January and February, which had been on the decline. Now, when it comes to some of the industries that we were watching going into this report, I have construction, motor vehicles and parts, and department stores, because these could be the groups that might be impacted by the tariffs going forward. Although I want to point out, this is the March job support, so preceded a lot of the tariff action that, of course, we were talking about, which happened this week. But construction jobs actually added 13,000 in the month. Motor vehicle and parts manufacturing basically went flat for the month. And department stores, again, retail, you can imagine if there is a pullback in activity at the Targets and Walmarts of the world, this could get impacted. We did see a contraction of 1.3 thousand jobs in the month. Again, nothing too notable there, but these are the ones that we're going to be watching for that potential tariff impact in the months to come.
And Caleb, I want to bring you in here. What are your first impressions here? I know you're just beginning to pour over the data. What's standing out to you?
Yeah, I was looking at government jobs because obviously we've had a lot of government layoffs. We've had some furloughs, some of that captured in the data, but not all of it when you know how many jobs have actually been cut. Just about, I think, 4,000 to 11,000 jobs in the government sector, which we know is going to rise when we get this next jobs report in a month from now. So that's where I was expecting a much heavier number. Not all of that recorded or captured in the survey. But when you look across some of the other metrics, the labor force participation rate, wages, average hours of the working week, all of those are pretty stable when you look back over the past 12 months. But what we did see is a revision to the numbers from last month. Job gains actually revised lower to just about 115,000. That was lower than what was reported, and the month before was a little bit lower than reported. So this is much stronger than we expected. I still don't think we have a very clear picture of what's really happening in the labor economy, but this is, again, the rearview mirror report. Things were okay last month. We'll see what happens this month.
And Brian, I want to talk Doge here. What's your take on the impact of Doge?
Yeah, well, I mean, Caleb was just saying that we've seen some impact, but not necessarily the full brunt of it, because just before I go into the numbers that we saw in this report, again, as far as the number of federal workers that reportedly accepted the Doge offer, again, that was as of some time ago, as of February 12th, apparently there were 75,000 federal workers that accepted that quote-unquote buyout offer. First off, as a sliver of the overall workforce of federal employees, if you exclude the Postal Service, that's 2.4 million. 75,000 as a fraction of 2.4 million is not a huge number, but this jobs report doesn't even tell us that 75,000 people were laid off or are no longer working in the federal government. In fact, this report showed us that just a contraction of 3.2 thousand. So again, as Elon Musk and President Trump kind of tout the shrinking of the federal government, we saw a contraction of just 3,000 jobs in the federal workforce in the month of March as a fraction of 2.4 million. That's really small, but it's even a small fraction of the claimed amount of people that were supposed to take the Doge buyout offer, although there are, of course, some methodological questions about whether or not maybe they won't be classified as not working in the government until the end of that offer period, which I believe the payout is through the end of this year or through maybe the fall of this year. Maybe that's when we start to see the full impact of that. We'll have to watch.
Yeah, we'll continue to watch for those numbers to come. Caleb, I've got one more for you as we are now getting into the second quarter of the year. How much were the last 3 months an indicator of how the jobs market could play out as the year goes on?
I don't think we can learn anything from that because we know our economy is being turned upside down right now, completely reshaped through these tariffs. And when you think about some of the demand destruction that's happening, not just because of tariffs, which are a consumption tax, but a lot of the market cap, a lot of the companies' stocks are way down. They're going to fall again today. That's demand destruction that doesn't give companies a lot of incentive to hire, and especially if there's not demand on the other side from consumers and businesses who are going to be dealing with higher prices. We've got a 10% across the board global tariff, so that's 10% on top of everything. And now we have reciprocal tariffs against many countries that we get a lot of parts from. And now we have retaliatory tariffs from China. So you can take the last 3 months and say, okay, that was what the economy was. This today, as of yesterday and Tuesday, really Liberation Day going forward, this is a brand new economy and it's going to look very different, I would say, 6 months from now and a year from now.
All right, a big thank you to our economic dream team. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
Across America, Trump's tariffs touching almost everything.
I just worry, and I want it all to be.
You literally proved my point, buddy. You literally proved why we need tariffs. Thank you, Mr. You Can.
My wife already has actually started to sort of penny pinch, not buy, overbuy.
To products used at River Market Restaurant in Kansas City.
Probably a tariff on this packaging, right? So now you've got almost like a double tariff, so to speak.
Outside of Birmingham, Alabama.
This particular gown would run around $3,500 to $3,800.
It's from
Our
China.
affiliate there spent the day.
That's why it costs so
Here's
much.
WVTM anchor Lisa Crane.
Some of the companies and designers who actually design these beautiful gowns actually have them manufactured or sewn together in Asian countries like China or Myanmar.
So far, we've only had one of our designers that has reached out to us and implemented an increase with the tariffs. According to them, it should have been 20%, but they only went up 10%. Which we're grateful for.
She says some designers already raised their prices on their latest collections, anticipating the tariffs.
If you have a gown that would normally retail for $4,000, that could increase anywhere from $500 to $700 or $800.
Also bracing for impact, Jungle Gym's international market in Cincinnati. Reporter Rachel Whelan from WLWT is there.
Few businesses will feel the effects of these tariffs like Jungle Gyms. However, employees here say they're still optimistic.
Our plan so far has been, how do we squeeze our margins enough to make sure that all the customers feel safe to come shop and eat here, right?
Now, Mark says customers might start to feel the effects more in about 1 to 2 years when they have to replace products like these canned chilies from India.
And tariffs could drive up prices across industries. Julia LeBlanc from our NBC station in Connecticut explains how you could soon see less of a deal at car dealerships.
Well, there are cars that are assembled here in the U.S. Most of them are imported from foreign countries, or all of the parts are also foreign.
This is an engine in one of our vehicles, and that absolutely would be subject to tariff.
Jeff Ayosa says there are 260 new car dealerships here in our state, employing about 14,000 people. Ayosa says these tariffs will have an effect on inventory, and customers can expect to see the impact of that in about 60 to 90 days. And with prices going up, dealerships may have to downsize.
It's going to be champagne, and what is the disbursement of that? We don't know.
And tariffs having an indirect impact as well.
It hurts my heart, honestly.
Like on tulip tourism in Washington State's Skagit Valley. Eric Wilkinson from King 5 News reports.
The month of April is like Christmas for the people of Skagit County. Typically, around 600,000 people from across the globe come to visit the tulip fields. But this year, it may be up to the locals to keep these fields full. The annual Tulip Festival brings about $83 million to the region. It's restaurants, hotels, and much more. But since talk of Trump's tariffs, there has been a border backlash against America. Crossings from British Columbia to the U.S. have dropped by 43%. And tulip farmers fear that will extend through the Spring Festival and perhaps beyond.
Part of being a Skagitonian is the ability to continue to survive and to continue to come back year after year.
A hope that locals will see the valley through this season until a better one arrives.
Remind Americans what Americans do best, and that is we show up in times that are good and in times that are more of a struggle.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
But first, there's this. President Trump signed the executive order last night, imposing sweeping
What do you
tariffs
guys
on more than 180 countries. They include a 10%.
No, buddy, I don't think I will need it. I don't live in the United States, so I don't think the tariffs will be hurting me as much. I live in a country with extremely low tariffs on that list. And we don't import many goods from the U.S. at all, so I really don't care. But you're the one freaking out. I don't know if you're still in here, but I just wanted to say that because you keep commenting, good luck, buddy, you'll need it, you'll need it. Yeah, I'm not a moron like you, first off. And second off, I don't even live in the U.S. Third off, I'm a United States citizen, but the country I live in, we don't import any goods from the USA. We're on the tariff list, but we're only on 10%, so it's not going to affect us. We don't import much. We don't even export much to the U.S. It's a very small country. We'll be virtually unaffected by tariffs. So I think you'll need it because you're the one shitting your pants and freaking out about tariffs. I really don't care. I know it's for the better of the United States. Even though I live in a small European country, we're not a part of the EU. We don't import or export goods from the United States. Like literally the only thing we export is beer, and that's it. And 10% is basically Trump's lowest tariff, so I'll be just fine, buddy. Prices aren't changing much here. But if you guys are having trouble with the prices like you can trash, you can shop with local farmers in the USA and stuff like that.
Tariff on China, 20% on the European Union, 32% on Taiwan, 25% on Japan, 25% on all foreign auto imports and more. Trump explained how American farmers are being ripped off and how this action will protect agriculture. Watch.
With today's actions, we're also standing up for our great farmers and ranchers who are brutalized by nations all over the world, brutalized. Canada, by the way, imposes a 250 to 300 tariff on many of our dairy products. The European Union bans imports of most American poultry. Australia bans, and they're wonderful people and wonderful everything, but they ban American beef, yet we imported $3 billion of Australian beef from them just last year alone, starting about midnight tonight. China charges American rice farmers an overquota, it's called, a tariff rate of 65%. South Korea charges 50%. Actually, they charge different, from 50% to 513%. In Japan, our friend charges us 700%.
Joining me now is Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins. Secretary, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here. Give us your sense of how these tariffs will impact the American farmer.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Maria. Yesterday, I thought the president did just an amazing and remarkable job outlining what really all Americans, but specific to me, the American farmers and ranchers have been facing all of these years, whether it's the 250% tariff from Canada on dairy products, whether it's Australia not importing our live beef cattle, whether it's Argentina and the billions of dollars that has been lost because they have banned our cattle since 2002 for some really strange reason that doesn't make any sense. So yesterday, it's a new day, and while certainly the economy will be adjusting, the negotiations will continue, we are really, really excited and very grateful to President Trump's leadership and being willing to be bold and fearless in facing some pretty big policy challenges around the world.
So what is the impact on farmers then?
Well, we'll see, right? I mean, we're negotiating. Now we move into some significant negotiations. I mean, I've got a great chart here. It shows you how the rest of the world tariffs, and there at the very end, you see where America is. And of course, you heard last night the president when he was talking about he spent most of his time on the farmers. Now, we've got steel, we've got autos, we've got other things we import and exported, but at the end of the day, our agriculture producers are the ones that I believe will be the most helped by this effort moving forward. But again, the next few weeks, the next few months, we'll see as we continue to renegotiate the tariffs and as we look to see what the impact will be. Ultimately, the president's vision is a golden age of prosperity, that these farmers and ranchers will see prosperity like they've never seen before under this new tariff regime, and certainly we're there to execute that vision.
So these additional reciprocal tariffs on China, on the European Union, on Japan, they're not taking effect until April 9th. Are you saying that you expect that you will see negotiations around this ahead of that taking effect? And perhaps we'll see a change in these tariffs?
I think that's right. I mean, this is always, listen, the president is the ultimate deal maker. He has been, cutting deals and making deals first for his companies, the Trump companies, and now for the American people. There is no one better. I saw it in the first White House as his domestic policy chief for 3 years, and then now as the Secretary of Agriculture in the cabinet. His ability to make and cut deals and negotiate is unlike anything I think any of us have ever seen that have been working for a long time in policy. And now he will apply that for the benefit of the American people, the American economy, and for our farmers and ranchers. And I do believe April 9th and beyond we'll continue to see these other countries opening up their markets, allowing more of our product in, our agriculture product, and again, for our farmers and ranchers, a new age of prosperity.
Well, this is a really important point that you're making right now, Secretary. The fact that you've got a delay in some of these tariffs to take effect not until April 9th, and you do believe that these numbers, and some of them are really significant, like the tariffs on China, all the way up to 70% when you include all the other tariffs that are in place already, and of course the fentanyl tariff that President Trump put in, it takes you all the way up to 54%, and then on top of tariffs that were already in place takes you all the way up to 70%. You believe some of these countries will say, you know what, I'm dropping my tariffs, I'm lowering my tariffs because I don't want to face this on April 9th.
That's exactly right. And then the longer term, I announced last week, I am going to Brazil, India, Peru, the UK, Japan, and other countries to start renegotiating and opening up the market. So not just on the current tariffs and the current products going in, but on new markets and new and emerging markets like a Vietnam or like in India. And the last administration did none of that. They sat on the sidelines. We saw a $50 billion trade deficit on just our agriculture products, but it's a new day. And so I'll be, heading out around the world, as with some of my other fellow cabinet members, to begin to start to roll that back and to open up and expand these markets for all of our producers.
What specific commodity or farmer product do you want to see opened up, and into what country?
Well, listen, every country is different. So, for example, for our pork producers, a lot of the piece of the pig we don't eat in America, the feet, the tongues, et cetera, but other countries, especially in East Asia, do. So let's open up those markets. Australia, Argentina hasn't been taking our beef for years and years now. Our beef cattle produce the best beef, the safest beef, and the tastiest beef in the world. Our sorghum, our grain, our
Hit the
corn,
like and
that
subscribe
needs to be going
button.
into India. They desperately need these products. And again, it's a whole new world based on Liberation Day yesterday.
Well, President Trump yesterday gave you much praise, talking about the job you've done in the last month and a half. I want to talk about what you've done with eggs. National egg prices have declined 9% from last week, now averaging $3 a dozen, according to the USDA. Secretary, we were just talking about it on set. Are eggs going to be tariffed?
Well, so let's pivot to eggs. And the president is so kind. He gives me a lot of credit for that. But listen, we rolled out a very bold plan about a month ago. Obviously, it's his vision. We're effectuating the plan. The market reacted very favorably to it. Included some short-term imports, but also included helping our poultry farmers in America. So as we repopulate our chicken farms and our egg-laying farms, I think we'll see the price coming down even more. But it's come down almost 60% on the wholesale side. The retail side is now catching up. So only good news on the egg front, and hopefully it will hold. Well, Maria, we are going into the Super Bowl for eggs. It is Easter in a few weeks, so we'll have to maybe make a little bit of adjustments there, but it looks very positive.
So where are the eggs coming from that you're importing?
Well, we're importing from Turkey, we're importing from South Korea, we're talking to a few other countries right now. But again, at the end of the day, once our farms are repopulated, in just a couple of months, it doesn't take long for those baby hens to get to the egg laying point, that once that happens, then we'll go back to pretty much using all American laid eggs.
So then that means that eggs will be tariffed if you're taking them from Turkey, right? That's part of the tariff plan.
Yes, I mean, all to be determined. We're all in negotiations, but yes, that's a possibility.
Secretary, I know you're also managing this bird flu outbreak. It caused a national egg shortage, along with the Biden administration's culling of chickens. You've implemented a 5-step plan, you say. What else needs to be done in that regard in terms of getting food prices lower?
Well, as you know, egg prices increased 237% under Biden. Food prices in general, our groceries, as the president talked about yesterday, increased almost 25% over those 4 years. These are unsustainable numbers. The president's vision of deregulation, of bringing the cost of input back down, and frankly, of opening up the world markets, all part of the strategy yesterday, that will all impact food prices and make raising a family and going to the grocery store affordable again. So it's all part of his multi-pronged strategy across the board, and I think our American families, they've already seen relief, right? Inflation came down, hit the lowest number in 4 years, I think, based on numbers last week, bringing new jobs in, 10,000 new jobs, the trillions of dollars that have now been committed on reshoring and bringing companies and manufacturing back to America. All of that will impact the living costs, the ability for people to raise their family and chase the American dream, which was lost in the last administration.
No, I understand. You've had great progress in terms of the price of eggs, but I guess I'm just wondering, is that progress completely, going back to square one with the tariffs coming? I mean, are you expecting retaliation from these countries who are now facing a tariff that they didn't face, just a couple of weeks ago? Are we now going to see egg prices move back higher because of the tariffs?
Well, all to be determined. The president has said that we'll have a little bit of uncertainty in the coming weeks, perhaps a month or two. But, and that's, I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, everything's going to be perfect and the prices are going to come down tomorrow, because this is an uncertain time. But that is the president's genius in all of this. He is the negotiating king, and this is part of the negotiating process. And so ultimately, whether that's in a week, a month, a few months, that all Americans will feel the benefit of this effort that he's undertaken, which, God bless him. He's one of the few that's bold enough to do it.
Here's the president yesterday. Watch.
Madam Secretary, Agriculture, great job you did on eggs, by the way. The egg prices came down 50%. We got them down 50%. Once we got involved, they were going through the sky. The egg prices, they were going through the sky, and you did a fantastic job. Now we have lots of eggs, and they're much cheaper, down about 59% now, and they're going down further.
Yeah, but of course, these tariffs are going to change things, Secretary. How long would you expect this disruption to take place?
I think it's going to be a very short time. You know, I'm the ag secretary. I studied agriculture at Texas A&M. I'm not the economist, but Howard Lutnick and others that are leading on this believe very sincerely, of course, with the president as the leader, that this will be, you know, it's a negotiation. It's a short-term disruption. Yeah. But that long-term, it had to happen. And when you look at the numbers from the other countries and how we have been taken advantage of year after year, decade after decade, it has to stop. And that's why the people elected the president. He has never been shy about saying that tariffs are a big part of his plan. The people elected him in a mandate, I believe, all the swing states and the popular vote, to implement, while a little bit, you know, perhaps some hardship right at the front. And we'll see, hopefully not. But I think that none of us really know right now in the short term. But in the long term, all of the numbers, the research, the economists, the teams here behind me at the White House all believe that this will ensure the prosperity of all Americans going forward.
Well, let me get your take on the education end of this, because the USDA has frozen funds to certain educational programs in Maine after the state refused to ban transgender athletes from girls and women's sports. Secretary, you wrote a letter to the governor there saying this is only the beginning, though you are free to end it at any time by protecting women and girls in compliance with federal law. Your office also reviewed Biden-era grants given to the Education Department. Tell us what you're doing.
Well, I think there is no doubt that not every single American, but most Americans with President Trump's leadership believe that men should not be in women's sports. This is common sense. I mean, I can't even believe we're even having these conversations, but we are, and we're having them with governors of, you know, that are leading states, and they're far to the left. Governor Newsom of California, I sent another letter to him a few days ago saying we're reviewing all of our grants into California for the exact same reason. The Maine governor, Governor Mills, I was in the room when she stood up and the president said, listen, this is not okay. You're violating federal law. We are going to take steps. And that's the difference between President Trump and, I believe, former presidents, is that he doesn't just say it. I mean, that very day, he called me and he said, if they're violating federal law, Brooke, we should not be sending them federal taxpayer dollars.
I
said,
agree.
"Sir, you're 100%
Hit the like and subscribe button.
So that's
Do you guys hate tariffs? Do you love tariffs? If we're looking at the stock market, we're only down 2% from last April. Only 2% from last April. But if we're talking about from the start of the year, we are down 13%. But exactly 1 year ago, 2%. That's not too bad if you ask me. No one was crying and complaining this hard. Overreacting, and no one begged the economy to get opened back up in 2020. When there was a 35% drop in the stock market. Countries that never shut down in the pandemic. Countries that never closed their economy in the pandemic. Sweden and South Korea never closed their economy. And it was just more than those two countries that never closed their economy. Guys, if you're new to the channel, I love to hear from you. Let me know what you think about tariffs. Is it a good thing to bring jobs back into America to support American farmers? Or should we just keep exporting all of our food and our goods and our stuff? Let me know what you guys think. Let me know where you guys are coming from. I'm not inside the United States, so I might not be as heavily affected by the tariffs as you guys. If you're new to my channel, hit the like and subscribe button.
This video was brought to you by Incogni. On Wednesday, Trump slapped
MAGA! I want to put my MAGA hat on. Hit the like and subscribe button if you support Donald J. Trump and if you love America. Now, this is an interesting video. How Trump could actually be great for Europe's economy. Now, I'm an American citizen, but I've been living in Europe for the last 2 or 3 years. But Trump definitely makes me consider coming back. If that man puts zero taxes or gets rid of taxes for people making under $150,000 a year, trust me, I will be there to get that.
All of America's major trading partners, including a 20% flat tariff on the EU. Well, this has caused some understandable anxiety in Brussels. But in certain respects, America's protectionist turn could create some incredible opportunities for the EU. So in this video, we thought we'd explain why, while Trump might cause some pain in the short term, in the long term, this could be genuinely great for the European economy.